It is time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. I am Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host, Smitty. Be sure to go follow us on all of our social medias at Around the 412. While you're listening to the show, go check out the link that we have in the description. We've got everything customized Facebook link. It's our friend Haley Wagner's small business, so she can do customized clothing for all of you guys. You can get some special Around the 412 merch from there, but she's got more than just that. She got all sorts of goodies for you. So go check that out. Facebook link, Haley Wagner, everything custom designs. Also, go check out our sponsor that is above my head on YouTube. But if you're not, we don't have a link for it, but you can go check it out. Keeks Barbershop. He's been our sponsor for pretty much since the beginning of the show. And you can find him on the Cut app. Search Keeks Barbershop. Schedule an appointment with him. Smitty has the address for you. Again, I do not know the address, so I'll have to.
You'll learn it from me saying it.
I'll be able to learn it, but Smitty will tell you where you can find him.
Keeks Barbershop, 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA 15009. You're familiar with Beaver, PA for sure. You know that.
I'm definitely familiar with Beaver, PA. That's my old stomping grounds. But yeah, go check out Keeks Barbershop. Go check out Everything Custom Designs. Go check out all of our other shows as well.
So
he is on social media. So go. Maybe we can start linking one of his social medias and shows as well.
Yeah, probably. I think he would probably rather have his Instagram. I'm guessing.
Probably.
He'll post like different cuts that he does and stuff on there. So,
but this is the Around the 412 Steelers show.
I'm fired up.
Boy, do we have a lot to talk about. I mean, a week ago to now, this team looks very different than what we were anticipating.
Yeah. 4 transactions ish to talk about, and then like some other, minor notes and stuff. Although Miles Killebrew, I would not include in minor. Love that guy. Probably one of my 5 favorite.
I mean, what do you have, like 2 or 3 blocked punts last season?
2 last year, but he has like 3 as a Steeler. So, Miles Killebrew back on a 2-year deal. That should be the first one we mentioned. Love that guy. One of my 5 favorite Steelers right now, probably, despite just being a special teamer. But yeah, like you mentioned, a lot has happened within a week. Some of it was talked about at the end of last week's show regarding Diontae Johnson. So if you tuned in last week, you were kind of expecting what went down at the time of recording this just last night. So, but let's go back in time. We will go in chronological order here to talk about these moves. The Steelers have a new quarterback in town in the form of Russell Wilson. Imagine telling yourself that Russell Wilson was going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback, maybe QB1. Even I would say a decade ago, but not even a decade ago, just a few years ago. Imagine telling yourself that Russell Wilson would be a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Imagine saying it last year. Even the last 2 years, just from a different perspective. But like, obviously, if you're going 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we're talking about the Russell Wilson Pro Bowl quarterback. But imagine saying it while he was a Bronco still, that he was going to be the quarterback. Maybe mixed feelings about how you would feel about that, but still pretty uncomprehendable that Russell Wilson is the Steelers quarterback. It's someone that we've talked about a lot on this show. One of the very realistic possibilities that could have happened for the quarterback succession with the Steelers. I'm not necessarily surprised that it was Russell Wilson out of the options that were available, but it's still just it's almost an awe of reality. Like, this is where we're at. That Russell Wilson is the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback for the 2024 season. Obviously, still has to beat out Kenny Pickett. I'm not going to say that is just an automatic thing, but
we can talk about that a little bit.
Let's kind of be real.
Yeah, we can talk about that in a little bit, but still, just like the idea of this happening and how we got here. Met with
so cheap too, dude.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be cheap for 2024, but this is what I wanted to get to. So we met with the Giants, and by the way, we can talk about this story too, that I should have been the one to break the news, by the way, but we'll get back to that in a second. Met with the Giants, then flew to Pittsburgh to meet with the Steelers, and then nothing. So I kind of figured something was up there, but then, you start wondering, like, is no team going to give him any money in 2025? Apparently that's what Ian Rappaport was talking about. Like, his agent was calling, trying to see if he could get a 2-year deal, get some guaranteed money in 2025 from some team. No team was willing to do it. So then he looked at his 1-year options, and where he felt like the best place to be was loved Pittsburgh. Clearly, when he came here for a visit last Friday, spent 6 hours meeting with Mike Tomlin. Cam Hayward was also part of that conversation. So Russell Wilson lands in Pittsburgh, and Okay, so let's start with why I should have been the one to break this. I mentioned New York and then Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
And then nothing. So I'm sitting there. 2 days go by after he had met with the Steelers in Pittsburgh, and we are a day before the legal tampering period starts. So if he was going to visit with somebody else, it should have happened Saturday or Sunday after visiting the Steelers on Friday and the Giants on Thursday. So I reached out to somebody that has broken a ton of news, especially over the last couple of days with the free agency on a national level, and said, hey, what's going on with Russell Wilson? Like, he met with the Steelers and then it's been like nothing since then. Is there something to this? Is he waiting until we actually get the free agency? Or like, what's the deal here? Because it just kind of seems like he's gonna come to the Steelers. And they were like, yeah, he was set to meet with the Raiders, but after the Steelers meeting went so well, think he's gonna sign there. So I responded and said, think he's gonna sign there, or he is like, I want to know because I haven't seen this put out by anybody yet. And they didn't respond to me until the following morning and said, sorry, got caught up with other stuff. I'm like, what? But the reason that I tweeted, I don't know if you saw, I tweeted like 3 hours before the news broke about Russ, a video of Renegade playing over Russ at midfield, like with the headphones on.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I tweeted that because I was like, I'll just put this out there because it's not like I can spin this a different way if he doesn't sign here. I'll just say like, oh, I was just like, hoping for
hopeful.
Russ. Yeah, hopeful. So it made it look like I had some type of intuition that something was going on. I had some information there, but in reality, I was just operating like off him saying, I think it's going to happen. I just couldn't get a full confirmation that it was happening to be able to fully put it out there. But yeah, I mean, I knew it was happening for sure. I should have been the one to break that news, and it's gonna haunt me because I would have been the first one by like 3 hours.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're also the first one to say that Plexico Burress is coming back. Lima Sweet is coming back. Ryan Switzer. I mean, you've been all over Twitter recently with some of your breaking news.
I don't know exactly where that started. Like, I don't know why it started or exactly what to trace it back to, but there was a good 25 plus of those tweets tweeted at me last night. I didn't even acknowledge all of them because some of them were duplicates. And some of them, I was just like, this person doesn't like, why are they, they don't even follow me. Like, how do they even become a part of this trend? But yeah, I mean, I was having fun with it. I was leaning into it, but man, I thought I had one with the Russell Wilson thing, but let's talk about this, competition that is so called going to take place, because I don't think it is one. I think Kenny Pickett is wearing the other shoe now. He is the other guy in the competition that would have been, Mitch Trubisky or Mason Rudolph, how they frame it as a competition, but it's not really. I do not think that Russell Wilson signs with the Steelers on a 1-year deal to not be the starting quarterback for this team in 2024. That's just my personal feeling. It's not necessarily anything that I've heard or going based off anything. I just think all signs, to me at least, point to Russell Wilson being the starting quarterback for this team.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I know that people are saying it's going to be a competition, and maybe on paper it's going to be, and maybe going into fall camp it's going to be a quote-unquote competition of we're going to see who the starting quarterback is. But behind closed doors, I feel like they know who the starting quarterback is. I don't think Russell Wilson, like you just said, I don't think he comes here if he's not like necessarily guaranteed the starting spot. And obviously you still have to perform well, but the fact that they bring this guy in, and let's face it, last year he threw 26 touchdowns. The Steelers over the past 2 seasons have thrown 25. There's going to be quirks with Russell Wilson still. He likes to hold on to the ball, doesn't throw over the middle of the field, and I'm sure that's going to make a lot of Steeler fans upset when they realize that this fall. But the fact that he has single-handedly outscored touchdown-wise the Steelers' past 3 quarterbacks over the last 2 seasons, I think it's an easy call of who's the starting quarterback. And I just go back to, I just want to mention again, like how great this deal is for the Steelers, because you get him at $1.2 million and Denver is paying the rest of his contract. So you were able to get him at $1.2 million. I think that's fantastic. it's a bargain because that's not even backup money in the NFL, and you're going to get your starting quarterback. And I said a month or maybe closer to 2 months ago, because we were talking about the differences between like what your expectations should be for if you brought in a guy like Kirk Cousins or Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, and like where you would gauge this team and what the season expectation would be with this team. What I want to know from you, if your season outlook has changed knowing that Russell Wilson, and not even considering the other moves that have been made over the past couple of days, but just singly Russell Wilson, has your outlook on the team changed from what they were last year? Do you think that they got better enough to say, because I said that I thought the expectation if you signed Russell Wilson, whenever we talked about that a month ago, the expectation should be to win a playoff game. Because if you're able to get to a playoff game with Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph as your 3 quarterbacks for a season, you should be able to at least set the expectation a little bit higher and say win a playoff game in my eyes with Russell Wilson. I want to know your take on that.
I would agree. I think that I'm basically in the same boat. I think marginally you're better, maybe another win or 2 in the regular season, and then a playoff win. But like, it's really gonna come down to like, who are they matching up with in the playoffs? That 1 or 2 game difference though is the difference between winning a division and just being a wild card team. So that could be enough to put them over that hump. And I say that hump meaning finally winning a playoff game. I know that that's not the aspirations. Like, the guys in that locker room aren't just sitting there thinking, oh, we got to win a playoff game. Nobody's thinking that. Like, they want to win it all. But for the fans that are talking about it, us sitting here right now, that is like the next step in the progression here. It's been so long to see them win a playoff game. You got to get over that hump. So I agree. I mean, I think at the very least you're talking about, he's not the same Russell Wilson, but he's still an NFL quarterback. We weren't even getting NFL quarterback play for the majority of the last couple of seasons since Ben Roethlisberger retired. And you look at, Russ when he was benched last year, 18th in EPA, expected points added per play. So, right around, a little bit under average, but here's where things really improve to me, going from last year to this year. First in red zone passer rating. So I think that you're talking about a guy that can maybe, last year settle in for a lot of threes. Maybe those threes can get converted to 6s because of what Russell Wilson does as the stakes get higher and the field gets smaller. So I look at that. Still a really good deep ball thrower. I think the deficiencies are going to be in, he's not the same athlete, and maybe in his head he is, because he still takes a lot of sacks running around back there, trying to create out of structure and
led the league in sacks.
Yeah, and he holds on the ball too long. I think, and those things go hand in hand. What's funny is the 2 quarterbacks that we spent most of the time talking about as external options, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, bottom 2 in terms of holding onto the ball too long. So, I think this going to be a tall task for, this offense to maybe mask that. I think it's something that he's, in his mid-30s. It's not something that's all of a sudden going to change. This is part of who he is. But I'll be curious to see how this offensive line does along with that, working hand in hand with him. So, but yeah, I mean, for the minimum, for what they got him for, because of that split deal that he had with the Denver Broncos, still paying him $38 million or $39 million. It's the Steelers couldn't have made out better, in my opinion, at the quarterback position in free agency. This was the best possible deal that they could get coming into free agency. So I'm excited about it, but going back again, I will reiterate that in my opinion, there's no chance that he's not the starter for week 1.
I agree with that. More importantly, though, what's the catchphrase going to be? I mean, we had Broncos country. Let's ride. What is this going to be for the Steelers?
Let's smelt. I don't know.
Steeler Nation, steal it. I saw that one being thrown around. Something like that.
I do not like that. What? Oh, at the stadium, they say, "Let's get to work." I wonder if he'll just say that. Steeler Nation. Let's go to work.
I don't know.
Possible.
I'm curious to see what he cooks up.
Yeah. But obviously he's really taken to being a Steeler too, by the way. If you follow him on social media, I mean, he is loving.
Oh, he
really
was
porched
he
up
was
his
really
Steelers
quick.
career.
He was really quick to change everything.
Changed his bio, changed his profile picture. He's been tweeting every day basically about it. We already saw, if you saw the video, he got shipped his jerseys and everything like that. That block one too, by the way, it looks so good. That 3 in the block, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know how anybody can look at the block jerseys and say they shouldn't be the main jersey.
Right. Who knows? The Steelers did just make one of their moves official, acquiring Donte Jackson. We'll talk about that in a second, but the Steelers finally actually officially making moves as the league year just started today. But I want to save that one for last. So probably, we'll talk about this Cam Johnson one real quick. We knew that the Steelers were going to upgrade at the punting position. They certainly did. I think once again, going back to like the quarterback position, at least they now have an NFL punter. In my opinion, a pretty decent one. Looks like Bill Burr, so that's a plus. But 3 years, $9 million for Cam Johnson coming over from the Texans. He's an Aussie. He's an Ohio State guy, so he's got me already. Any thoughts on Cam Johnson in general? I mean, I think he kind of is what he is. He's probably somewhere in the 14th, and I believe 14th was where he ranks NFL-wise going back to last year. But, in my opinion, you're probably talking about somewhere between like a top 10 to 15-ish punter, which I mean, you look at what Presley Harvin was giving them, is certainly an upgrade.
Yeah, so he was ranked, let's see. 5, 10. Yeah, like around 15, 16 in punt yards average.
Okay.
So it's like middle of the road punter. I think it's an upgrade. I think it's the thing that the Steelers really needed to get was just more consistency at the position. I don't think they needed to have somebody who is just going to punt it out of the stadium every single time he takes the field. I think that they just need to get more consistent. There was too many times over the past several seasons that you had 20 yards, and it's just like, what is Presley Harvin doing? Like, does he not practice? How is it going off of his foot? It made no sense to me why we saw so many terrible punts for several games, several seasons. It was a disappointment, especially knowing that the Steelers drafted him out of college. He was the Ray Guy Award winner at Georgia Tech, but he was just a disappointment overall in the NFL. And even last year, which was his best statistical year, he was still disappointing. I think that they got more consistency with Cam Johnson, and I think that's what they really needed to focus on. They don't need a guy that's going to, like I said, kick it out of the field, but you just need someone that is going to be more consistent and more fluid with their punts, because honestly, like a lot of the Steelers, like their ineptitude offensively also has to do with them just not being able to
push. They can never flip the field.
Yeah, they never flip the field. They don't get a good starting position. It's bad.
Yeah, special teams were certainly an issue last year, so hopefully this is a significant upgrade. I think at the very least you got an NFL level punter, a baseline punter. So yeah, not much more to add to that. We'll see how he does here. 3-year, $9 million deal, $3 million per season. Pretty cut and dry there. The big splash in free agency for the Steelers, Patrick Queen coming over from the Baltimore Ravens, just 24 years old, 3 years, $41 million. Interesting structure on this deal. We'll count just $6 million against the cap. 6 and some change. I said $6 million, but it's not exactly 6, but somewhere in that ballpark in 2024. So it leaves them enough space to do something else significant, add another significant salary to 2024. But what are your thoughts on the move? It's not every day that you see a interdivision move like this for a 24-year-old coming off an all-pro season.
I think it's a fantastic move. I think that they needed to address the linebacker position. We knew they were going to, and I had mentioned that I knew there was going to be in free agency, or I felt like it was going to be in free agency. Just kind of looking at what the draft holds for middle linebackers and seeing what I thought the Steelers would do. I thought they would address it in free agency. Did I think they were going to get a guy like Patrick Queen? No, I didn't. I feel like that was too big a fish for what the Steelers were going to do. But obviously, Omar Khan was able to murk his magic and make it work out. An interdivision signing, I feel like that doesn't happen too often. And you get a guy that wore the green dot in Baltimore, which I know the Steelers are going to love, and you get someone that can do it in Pittsburgh. But I think you upgrade at the position. I think that and this is no slight to Cole Holcomb, he was on the field for like half the season last year. And then there's no slight to Landon Roberts, but I do think immediately Patrick Queen is your best middle linebacker. And he's the guy that can hold it down over the middle. You also get a lot of speed over the middle with Patrick Queen, guys that can cover running backs, guys that can cover tight ends better than some of the other guys we've had doing it at the position. I think that this is a massive upgrade and a huge signing for them. And the thing that is funny to me is I see Baltimore guys, whether it was a Baltimore radio guy or Baltimore fans in general, trying to say that this isn't as big of a deal as the Steelers fans are trying to make it, or Steelers media are trying to make it, because he was just second fiddle to Roquan Smith in Baltimore. And I just don't believe that. I refuse to, and I don't know if that's just like sour grapes on the behalf of Baltimore fans and stuff. I do not believe that the success of Patrick Queen was only because he was paired up with Roquan Smith. I feel like that is not the case. I feel like he's going to have a successful career in the Steelers, and I think that the fact that you have stars all over the Steelers defense helps too. That Patrick Queen doesn't have to be the guy. He might be the guy in the course of the middle linebackers, but on the defense, he is not the focal point, which I think is going to open it up even more for him, because you do have someone like TJ Watt, and behind you do have Minkah Fitzpatrick, and he played with a lot of great players in Baltimore. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like a lot of Baltimore players or not players, Baltimore fans are kind of looking at this as if like Patrick Queen is the savior of our defense, and that's the way the Steelers are acting like it. That's not what we're acting like at all. This is just a great signing, and he's just joining an already great defense.
I do get that line of thinking to an extent in terms of the Ravens fans, because Patrick Queen did struggle very early in his career as a young player, and then Roquan got there and kind of stabilized him. But like, how much of that is due to Roquan, and how much of that is just Patrick Queen growing as a player himself? I did say about, it's interesting to me how the contract is structured. It means one of two things. I mentioned they still want to make a splash in 2024, and they're kicking salary down the road to do so. But the other part of it are the Steelers may be a little bit curious about what Patrick Queen is away from Roquan, because, if they're only guaranteeing what he's making in 2024, about $13 million between the signing bonus and his salary and stuff, and then they can move on if things do go south. Not saying that I expect them to or anything like that, but I just wonder, it seems like the Steelers kind of protected themselves from the idea of this too. So but I do want to say this. I think it's a great pairing here as well with Elandon Roberts. And then when you get Cole Holcomb back, hopefully, I don't know what the situation is like there. They're not putting any timetable on that, but he has been walking and running and stuff like that. So hopefully he's able to be part of this rotation too. But specifically with Elandon, the way that he clears things out, I think, he's going to just go to that level and like be able to clean things up and let Patrick Queen be able to be Patrick Queen and just flow freely to the ball, make a bunch of plays, and be himself. And I just think that that's probably why I'm where I'm at with the signing, where I do think it's like a seamless pairing. I don't want to say, every Steelers fan that we acquire an off-ball linebacker, they need this guy to be Ryan Shazier. But like, that is probably the level that we're talking about here in terms of what he could be. Still just 24 years old, what he's already accomplished. And we shouldn't have been surprised by this with the way that we've seen Mike Tomlin talk about him. Like, specifically that duo in Baltimore, every time that they come up, I put out a couple of clips from the last couple of meetings talking about those guys. And then it's funny, you take it back to when he told Patrick Queen that he wasn't a Raven. I mean, he ended up being right, because now he's a Steeler. But yeah, I mean, it's just Tomlin playing those mind games like he always does. To me, this is a slam dunk signing, not as big of a fish as I expected them to go at off-ball linebacker, but I'm certainly not upset about it. And in the process, if you can get better and make a divisional team worse within the same move, it's a win-win. So I'm thrilled with this signing. And again, I wanted to throw that scenario out there. That's not what I believe is going to happen, though. I think Patrick Queen is going to be a very good player for the Steelers.
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, this is way bigger than I thought they would have done when it comes to the linebacker position this offseason. So I'm excited about it, because I feel like you have a potential star at every phase of the defense.
Yeah. I mean, I agree too. Like you said, it's not within that middle linebacker room. Elandon Roberts is solid. Cole Holcomb solid, but there's guys at the other levels of this defense. Joey Porter Jr., what he did his rookie year, at every level of this defense, there's a guy. So I think Patrick Queen will be just fine with the talent that he is to play with on that side of the football. And then, like I said, just last night, Diontae Johnson traded to Carolina, not necessarily a team that I brought up within those couple that I had heard were interested. Kansas City also put out an offer that the Steelers did not accept. So at least 4 teams that we know of that were interested in Diontae Johnson. And they come away with a Diontae Johnson for Donte Jackson trade with a late round pick swap, a 7th going to Carolina for a 6th coming back to Pittsburgh. And, pretty underwhelming trade. I feel like we could probably just insert the clip talking about Jake Gensel's trade to Carolina from our Penguins episode last week, and it could apply here as well. I'll be honest. I think once again, it comes down to a few factors here, because we know Omar Khan, we have no reason to not trust everything that he does at this point in time.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying he's not capable of making a bad move. I don't think there was any way for the Steelers to win a Diontae Johnson trade. And I say that because of the situation that I think they were put in by him. He wasn't playing here in 2024. Like, I don't know how much more blunt people that are in the know need to put it. There was 0% chance of him being on the Steelers in 2024. Going into last week, when I talked about it on here, I was kind of hopeful it would happen sooner rather than later, because the closer we got to Friday, the return was going to diminish, because people would know that the Steelers were desperate to move him to not have to pay that $3 million roster bonus. So I think similarly to, like I said, with the Gensel trade for timing purposes, I think that is maybe why the return was what it was. And the Steelers, maybe there was a team out there that they could have just gotten some picks for, late round picks. Maybe they're similar to Jerry Jeudy trade was on the table. And personally, I think I would have rather have had that and not taken on the salary of Donte Jackson, just had the room to play with. But they opted to get what they believe is a starting caliber corner in Donte Jackson back in the trade, and add, at least for the time being, until we see if Donte Jackson's contract gets reworked, actually added salary to 2024, $500,000, as opposed to shedding any salary in this deal. So you create a hole at wide receiver. You hopefully fill a hole at cornerback with Donte Jackson, but you also added $500,000 to 2024 salary. So I'll let you go here on how you feel about this. I want to come back, though, because you know how I feel about Diontae Johnson. So this was a tough one for me.
Yeah. Not only did you add $500,000 to the cap, but you also the $3 million that you wanted to get out of paying, you increased it by $2.6 million with Donte Jackson. Jeez, man, those two names are so similar. Yeah. It's so annoying. Mm-hmm. I heard you talking about it today on Steelers Afternoon Drive that they were similar names, and I keep on. I was wanting to say Diontae Johnson. No, Donte Jackson. His signing bonus, or the roster bonus, is $5.6 million. So the Steelers only have, as of recording this, 2 days, but they only have a day to really figure out and rework the contract, so they don't have to pay or be on the hook for that. We'll see what happens with that trade overall. Yeah, you said it, pretty underwhelming. I feel like that was more or less the consensus of Steeler fans, and obviously not everybody feels that way, but I just feel like Diontae was worth a little bit more than that, and maybe that's biased because I'm a Steelers fan, and maybe the national consensus on Diontae Johnson maybe wasn't as high as what Steeler fans thought it would be. But still, it kind of just feels underwhelming. And the Steelers, I know, were put into a corner, like you were just saying. There's no way Diontae Johnson was coming back. He wanted out based off all reports of what was happening in the locker room, in practices, in wide receiver meetings and everything like that. There was no way Diontae Johnson was going to be coming back. So when you're kind of handcuffed a little bit, as the Steelers were, you kind of have to take what you can get at that point, especially having to do it before Friday and paying him that $3 million. And so the trade itself, while it's underwhelming, I think that they did a good job, at least, of getting a position of need if they were going to get an NFL player and not just picks. I'm not sure how Donte Jackson is going to be as a number 2 corner paired with Joey Porter Jr., and we'll see. I still think that the corner is still a position of need in this year's draft for sure. Yeah. but at least they got somebody that could be a serviceable corner. I think that he's an upgrade of Levi Wallace at the very least on the outside. So there is that, but now you've created a hole at wide receiver. And that hole was going to be there no matter what you traded him for, unless you traded him for a receiver. But the hole just flipped to the opposite side of the field. And I think that it's very important for the Steelers to approach this knowing that right now, as we sit, Calvin Austin is your wide receiver too. And I know there's probably a lot of Steelers fans that feel good about Calvin Austin, but that's the reality of it right now. So they have to heavily look at the receivers for free agency and the draft. Let's be honest, they're probably going to be both. And but man, it sucks because, and I know you're going to get to this, but having Diontae gone, you lose just a pure route runner. You lose someone that is really quarterback friendly that can get open for them. And obviously there's negatives that you gain positives for by getting some of that out of the locker room. But as far as just on-field stuff, you're losing one of your top two receivers, your number one receiver over the past 5 years. It's going to be tough for the Steelers to really replicate a lot of what they lost when it comes to just on-field, I feel like, with Diontae Johnson.
I mentioned with the fit in the offense was kind of weird to me. Like, with Arthur Smith's offense, I don't know if you don't have Diontae Johnson, if you're going out and looking for a receiver like Diontae Johnson. So, from that standpoint, I was already questioning the fit a little bit to begin with. So I don't know if they'll go out and get a player similar to that. I think you're going to see them target different types of receivers in general anyway. Like, I think it was very clear with Arthur Smith, with Zach Dizani, those guys being the ones brought in, that they want to go a different route at receiver. Like, those guys are known hard coaches, disciplinarian types. And I think it was very intentional what they did there. We talked about, how toxic things had become in wide receiver meetings and stuff like that. It was time for both parties. Definitely think Diontae wanted out of here. No chance he was attaching himself to this offense in a contract year. We'll see if an extension comes at some point in Carolina. I'm intrigued by that fit too. I mean, playing with the number 1 overall pick last year and Bryce Young in that offense. So I'm curious how that goes for him. Wish him all the best. But yeah, I think with me, I mentioned the emotional attachment that you'd like to never have with players. But with Diontae Johnson, I think it came from just defending him all the time, like being his biggest defender, somebody that supported him through it all. And, I wish I still had my old X account because, going back to 2019 when we drafted him, nobody really knowing who he was. And I was on board with it. Everybody was really questioning it and saying, like, we took a guy that would have gone like round 5 or 6. Then you come to find out Bruce Arians was pissed that he didn't fall 1 pick more because Tampa Bay was going to take him right after Pittsburgh. So to me, he's kind of always been underappreciated in Pittsburgh. Don't get me wrong, frustrating player at times, certainly had his ups and downs, and on a play-to-play basis, the consistency wasn't always there. But I certainly enjoyed his time in Pittsburgh, appreciated his time in Pittsburgh. I know I'm not directly a member of the media, but like he came in 2nd place this year for the Chief Award for his handling of the media. So like, I think there's a very different perception from fans as there is with his teammates and the members of the media that he interacts with on a daily basis as to who Diontae Johnson is. So I know that the fan base is pretty split and has been pretty split on Diontae through his entire tenure. Doesn't always come off the best way on social media himself, and he does that to himself, and I won't deny that. But yeah, this is, like I said, it's a tough one. I get 3 autographed Steelers jerseys on my wall right to the right, and one of them is Diontae Johnson. So,
man, you lose Jake Gensel, and then 5 days later you lose Diontae Johnson. Not even 4 days later. Crazy.
Yeah.
Feel bad for you. I did appreciate the meme though of the flight saying Diontae Johnson on his way to Carolina.
He's going the wrong way.
He's heading towards
I didn't get it at first. Like I thought
I didn't get it at first either. But then when I realized what was being said, I'm like, man, that's funny.
Yeah.
That is funny.
Yeah. But yeah, gonna miss Diontae. Wish him all the best in Carolina. We'll see if it's a long stay. Maybe he doesn't get extended, hits free agency, and we'll see where he goes. But definitely a player that I will be supporting for his entire tenure, wherever it might be. Last week we had a little bit of a segment I did come up with a name for this if we're going to do this, but for the time being, it would just be what Smitty's hearing. So last week I mentioned Diontae Johnson potential trade. We saw it happen within a week. I don't know what else I talked about during that. Oh, Freiermuth, right? The Freiermuth stuff at the combine.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything else?
I think that was pretty much
Was there anything
it.
about Russ in there? I'm not sure if there's anything about Russ in there.
I don't think there was anything about Russ.
Okay. Either way, so here we are through the first wave of free agency. You mentioned the Steelers created a hole at wide receiver. They have not filled that yet. And I'm not breaking any news here. If you've been on Twitter and seen Mark Caboli talk about it, been widely speculated. Tyler Boyd, people have said like mutual interest. Well, I can tell you that there's more than mutual interest. There's actually a contract offer out to Tyler Boyd. It is on the table for him if he wants to sign it. So I'm kind of expecting at this point, within the next 48 hours, that we have a decision. I saw there was also some interest from New England. I don't know if that's mutual interest. I just saw the Patriots were interested in Tyler Boyd. I think we're going to have a Tyler Boyd decision within the next couple of days. Prediction: I think Tyler Boyd becomes a Pittsburgh Steeler, which is going to be like a really feel good, cool thing, right? You know, him coming home probably takes the sting away of Diontae Johnson a little bit. If you were a fan of Diontae Johnson, like myself, Tyler Boyd is not the player that he once was. I think he's coming off a year with just like 650-ish yards, just 2 touchdowns. Obviously been competing for targets with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins when those guys are healthy too. Last year, didn't have Joe Burrow for a majority of the season as well. But I definitely feel like watching Tyler Boyd, it's not the exact same player, but he's been a reliable guy. Obviously, the inside-outside versatility, and I think that he's kind of the type of slot receiver that Arthur Smith's offense would be looking for. So, Pitt alum, local guy. I think at some points, a lot of fans were hoping this guy will wear a Steelers uniform at some point in his career. And this is just my prediction and a little bit based off what I'm hearing. I think it happens. I think Tyler Boyd becomes a Pittsburgh Steeler by the end of this week.
I'm glad, because I've been hammering the table for that too. I've wanted Tyler Boyd as a Steeler for a long time, and the fact that I said it even before the Diontae Johnson trade. I thought he would be a good fit as wide receiver 3 behind Diontae and George Pickens. But now that you left an even bigger hole with Diontae Johnson out, I think it makes too much sense. Local guy, hometown kid, Clairton High School, Pitt alum. I mean, actually, he might not even be an alum. He left early. He might not have graduated. I don't know if he graduated. We'll have to ask him if he comes on the show. Did you graduate, you bum? Anyway, but I think it makes too much sense. I think that he would be a good option. And that still leaves room, like we were saying, like just because they bring in Tyler Boyd, they're still going to be looking in the draft for a receiver. I feel like that's very clear at this point that they're going to be looking to draft a receiver and potentially drafting a receiver early.
He left after his junior year, by the way. So
yeah, I knew he did, because I was hoping that he would stay, because his senior year would have been 2016, and that was the first year they were playing Penn State again. Didn't end up mattering because they beat Penn State that year anyway. But I just remember wanting him to stay to play in that game. But
I saw him play. So he went to Clairton. Which, if you are somebody like Pittsburgh local, you know that school, beast of the single A for a very long time, Clairton Bears. But he played against Monaca at Heinz Field, absolute beast. What a stud he was. And so turns 30 in season next year. I feel like he should be older than that. It just seems he's been playing for so long. Came into the league in 2016 as a 2nd-round pick, has spent his entire tenure to this point with the Cincinnati Bengals. But I think it's pretty clear that he's not going to be back with that team next year. So yeah, if you're putting me on the spot, give you a prediction, I think Tyler Boyd becomes a Pittsburgh Steeler by the end of the week.
I love it.
Yeah. The other one to talk about, we're looking for some safety help. A lot of people have talked about Justin Simmons, who was released by the Broncos. They have been in contact, but what I heard was, and this is somebody out in Philly also put this out there, but his number is like somewhere between 11 and 12 million per right now. That's just not happening. I mean, once he comes down off that offer and wants to rejoin planet Earth, then he can have some conversations with teams probably. But I don't know where exactly the Steelers are at, but they've contacted him. The one that I'm looking at is Julian Blackmon. I know for sure that they talked Monday and Tuesday during legal tampering. And similar to Tyler Boyd, I can also 100% tell you there's a contract offer on the table to Julian Blackmon as well.
Damn dirty Ute, but he's a good player, so
yeah,
I'm fine with it. But he is a Ute.
Mm-hmm. I think the good thing with him is it allows Minkah to be Minkah. He does a lot of those things in the box, and I think that he would be, you're cover the tight end guy and be able to let Minkah play center field, half field, be a robber, and get back to the best version of Minkah Fitzpatrick. So I just really like the pairing more than anything else. I think Julian Blackmon is a good player, but I think what makes him such a good fit is he allows Minkah to be a great player.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that it allows him to be a free, like the free safety that we want him to be, the ball hawk that we would want him to be. So I agree with that. Even though he's a Ute, I think Julian Blackmon would be good as a Steeler.
Keep throwing that in there. Yeah, I think too.
I'll say it right now. If Julian Blackmon comes on the show, I'm being decked out in BYU stuff. I fully, just so you're fully aware that he might join and then leave, but I will be wearing BYU stuff if he joins the show.
Some other things that I've heard, not like heard contract offers been out to. I really think they want to get this Tyler Boyd thing done because they've shown interest in other receivers. Josh Reynolds, they've been in contact with KJ Osborne, but like Tyler Boyd is the only one that I've heard that there's a contract offer on the table to him. I think they're waiting on him to see what happens. If that domino falls and they don't land him, I think that, Josh Reynolds, to me, at least, would probably be the next guy in line for them to target. At safety, I'm not sure where they go. If they don't land Julian Blackmon or if Justin Simmons doesn't come down to something more reasonable for them to get in the ballpark with. I think Justin Simmons is really interesting anyway, just because he plays the same position. Like he's also a free safety. So to me, like I don't think that you can have enough of those guys. They're versatile enough. We've seen them to play different positions, as I just mentioned, prior to this season. But like you still got to add, if you're going to play both those guys in those roles, you got to have another guy like in the box. So like, I'll throw a name out there that I know the Steelers are interested in. I don't necessarily want it, but you want to talk about a box safety, Jamal Adams.
I'll pass.
Yep. Pony put it out there. Pony put it out there. I'd heard similar. They definitely have interest in Jamal Adams. I mean, getting up there in age, hasn't been super healthy. He's not going to, fill a lot of safety duties. Might as well call him a linebacker, in my opinion, at this point.
Yeah.
But I think that what he would be able to do, again, is allow those guys to play freely and not have to worry about coming down into the box and helping out, around the line of scrimmage. So I think something like that could work. If you're going to go that route, why not just look to do a Terrell Edmonds reunion and have him pretty much just play, in the box around the line of scrimmage?
Yeah.
But that's just me.
I think that's where my mind went. Actually, if they're gonna kind of buy low on a safety, you should see what Terrell wants to do and see if he would come back. If they're gonna go for that type of buy low option.
Yeah, we've seen some other reunions, so
it could work.
Sure. We'll see. But yeah, I would say the Tyler Boyd one, I think is the one to watch. I think that's the domino that they're looking to fall first. I think they want to get that done. And see where they stand at that point. I have no clue what the financials of that look like. Like I said, going to be 30 this season as a receiver. I don't know, but I know that they're willing to spend, like they're going to covet that, in my opinion, because he is, a vet finally getting some leadership into that room when it's in, so much influx, like so much turnover within that room. I think they're looking for that type of stability that Tyler Boyd would bring. So I think they're probably going to value the off the field stuff as much as they will the on the field stuff with him
in that room and just in that offense too. I mean, when you think about it, that's also why Russell Wilson is such a good signee too, because think about it,
offensively, one that's been there and done that. Yeah.
Offensively, like Isaac Samalo is a lineman.
Oh, you're right.
And so, but even still, like I feel like linemen are kind of their own different breed when it comes to like veteran leadership for the offense. But as far as like skill players and quarterback, the most tenured player outside of, I'll even include like the line outside of Samalo, the most tenured player on the Steelers is Najee Harris when it comes to offense.
Yeah. Him and Freiermuth, same year.
Him and Freiermuth.
Dan Moore, same year as well.
Dan Moore, same year as well. Okay. It's just crazy to me that is like, and if you're just talking like not even their NFL careers, but on the Steelers themselves, Those are the guys that have been there the longest. Those are the leaders in your offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which I think like Najee has some of that to him, but not like externally, like internally. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point. You know, I think that Russ definitely will add some of that to the room, and hopefully this Tyler Boyd thing gets done, and likewise he would. So I would be relatively excited about that addition. Again, understanding he's not the exact same player, but you're not going to replace what Diontae Johnson was doing for this offense right away anyway. Tyler Boyd, similarly, like you mentioned, Donte Jackson not shutting the door at corner in the draft. You sign Tyler Boyd, you're still going wide receiver pretty early in the draft, I'd imagine.
I'm still banging the door for Jalen McMillan. That's my guy.
I like that one a lot. They have Washington's Pro Day is coming up here, I think in like, oh no, it's the 28th of this month, I believe. It's one of the later ones. They have never attended Washington's Pro Day. This is the
if they don't this year, then what are they doing?
I think this is and you look at the schedule, it's not like there's not another team that unless like UNC has their pro day, they're not going to send their top brass there.
Oh boy, let's go look at Drake May.
They'll probably have somebody there for Tez Walker, but like yeah, in terms of Tomlin, Kahn, like Arthur Smith, you got to be in Washington.
Unless it's on a game day, I don't think Mike Tomlin's ever crossed the Mississippi River.
Yeah, Mark, you remember the tight end, Mark Bruner, the old Steelers tight end?
Yeah.
You know he's their West Coast scout.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And his
Must
son
have an easy job. He doesn't have to do anything. His son's a tight end there at Washington. I didn't know that.
So
but he must have an easy job because the Steelers don't really do anything with West Coast schools.
They are very familiar with that program. I think this is the year they finally go to that pro day. And yeah, I mean, Roma Dunze, I know that's in my opinion not happening. Like people can say, oh, they'll trade him. No. But Jalen Polk, Jalen McMillan, I think are very much in play on day 2.
Maybe they met with Roma Dunze because they didn't want to use up 2 official visits.
What's Jalen McMillan like?
So what is Polk and McMillan like? We know we're not going to pick high enough for you, but can you tell us about our teammates? That's just 200 IQ on the Steelers' part.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, Roma Dunze is unbelievable. I mean, so Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, all 3 of those guys are just so stupid. Like in most years, we'd be talking about, you know, a Dunze and Neighbors, who's number 1, but they got, you know, the cleanest wide receiver prospect to come out since I don't know when. I mean, I think he is as a prospect. I'm not saying he's going to be a better pro. And I'll see where you're at with this. I think he's a better prospect than Jamar Chase was coming out of LSU.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Chase went 5th.
Chase went 5th. I mean, I think that if you're taking positional value out of it, I think there's an argument to be made that he's the best prospect in the draft. Like, if you're just going the best prospect, period.
Like what's the flaw? Like, I don't see it.
I don't know. And I mean, the pedigree. Look at who his dad is. Yeah. Like, I don't think there is any flaw, which is why in our dynasty draft, I'm thrilled because my decision is going to be made for me by pick number 3 whenever I draft. And I don't know what I'm hoping more for, a quarterback or Marvin Harrison Jr.
I think 3 is a great spot to be in. So, yeah.
Like I said, my decision's made for me.
Yeah. We're getting off track. We're not talking Steelers. Let us know how you feel about what we talked about. Again, just dropping some nuggets for you guys. We'll see if they come to fruition. I promise you, I would not bring it up on this show if I didn't with 100% certainty know that was the case. So with 100% certainty, I will reiterate the Steelers have made contract offers to Tyler Boyd and to Julian Blackmon. So if you're sitting there worried about like a lack of inactivity right now with the Steelers, they're working. They're trying to get these things done. Hopefully by the end of the week, they are announced and we can put our minds to ease a little bit about the path and free agency before we get to the NFL draft. So
no, if Smitty was unsure about the signing, but thought it could happen, he would tweet out Tyler Boyd's Clareton highlights with "Here we go, Steelers" in the background.
Right, like I mentioned, I did with Russ. So
yeah,
We'll see. I will follow us at around the 412. Keep you guys updated there. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Everything Custom Designs link in the description. Our friend Haley Wagner's small business. Everything custom besides hats, really. T-shirts, hoodies, all different types of articles of clothing with whatever design you want on them, including around the 412. Actually, I mentioned in the Penguins one. Somehow had not mentioned this on the Steelers one yet. NFL Draft live show. Be here Thursday, April 25th and Friday, April 26th. I will definitely be here. Tyler will see when or if he's here for the draft. Will not be in the United States of America. So we'll play it by ear in terms of his availability. But I will definitely be here. Going to be giving away Steelers tickets, a couple Steelers jerseys, some around the 412 merch, Terry Bradshaw Funko. Mid Kuiper Jr., from what I hear, will be making an appearance. I don't know if it's going to be the whole show or what's going to be going on there. Obviously, other obligations for him on draft night, but
I don't know how we afford
sure.
him every year.
Yeah. I would like to lock in a lifetime contract, but I've tried and it's, the financials haven't lined up for us. Our financial situation with how much money we're making as a show. So,
yeah, I mean, we're really rolling it in.
Hopefully we can make something work at some point down the line, but be here for the Around the 412 live draft show. We do it every year. I don't remember what year we started doing it, but we've been doing it every year. I will be here. Drew, Joe, that hosts the fantasy show for us. Sarge will be here as well. Jake Chavink for sure night 2. We'll see about night 1. Not sure what he's got going on. Maybe we can get Nate to be here. He's had something the last couple years, which completely understand. I think last year was like a death in the family. So I'm not saying ridiculous that he wasn't able to join, but he's had something going on the last couple of years that hasn't been able to be a part of it. Hopefully this year that changes. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's sponsored by Keith's Barbershop, just like the podcast itself is. Logo, if you're watching on YouTube, right above Tyler. Keith's Barbershop, located 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Old school vibe, Christian, Tony. And you know what? I just realized in the last 2 times that I've mentioned this, actually maybe all 3 that I've mentioned it so far, didn't even mention Ashley. Ashley also cuts hair there. Sorry, Ashley, for leaving you out of this. But they all do a great job. And if you download the Cut app and look up Keith's Barbershop, you will find the barbershop there. Book an appointment. I promise you will not be disappointed. If you are, go somewhere else the next time. I don't know what to tell you.
If you are, that sucks.
Yeah, basically. No, but big shout out to Christian and the people at Keith's Barbershop for sponsoring the show. Basically since we started doing it. So other than that, for Smitty, for Tyler, this has been the Around the 412 Steelers show. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.